Thank you, Lord Mayor. I think there are many very valid points made by my colleagues, Councillor Grindrod, Councillor Tilsley, but I think there are some things that I have to add as well. And then, if I may, I'll come back and make some general points. Don't know if 7 minutes will be enough, but I'll try. First, we do have to inform the Chamber that even though this says Audit Committee annual report, it's not the annual report of the Audit Committee. The committee never met and agreed this report. We were going to have a meeting, and for some reason, and I still don't know why that meeting was cancelled. I've tried to find out why it was cancelled. No one has told me. So this report was produced by what amounts to a kind of quasi, well, I don't really know who wrote it, but the committee never met to consider it. We were sent a copy by email. We asked for some changes. We wrote a letter, suggested various amendments. It was largely ignored. And so the Chamber has to be aware that this is not the report of the Audit Committee. That this is the report of somebody. I don't know. And there's a number of things that should have been included in this that weren't. A lot of Audit Committee's time was wasted because we were getting presentations of portfolio holders. I was watching endless presentations of pointless PowerPoints. Everything was being presented in a very positive light. And several times I suggested that the committee should stop holding these sessions and go back to the traditional business of the Audit Committee. Now, eventually we did, thank goodness. But I think that should have been mentioned in the report. I think we also have to say that during the period when the chair of Audit Committee was chief whip of the Labour group, on many occasions, we questioned whether that was appropriate. Well, do you really think that's appropriate? That the person responsible for maintaining discipline in the Labour group is chair of the Audit Committee? It's a nonsense. Now, everybody outside agrees with us. Eventually, I think you came round to that way of thinking because that situation changed. But I think that should have been mentioned in there. I think that the report should have mentioned this point about Audit Committee being led to believe that everything was okay with the Oracle system, albeit there were some teething problems, that the equal pay liability was circa 100 million. And even as we know, and this is the critical point, that on the 3rd of February, there were meetings taking place where senior officers and members of the executive knew that the equal pay liability was likely to be far in excess of what Audit Committee believed it to be. And that should have been brought to Audit Committee immediately. I agree with Councillor Tilsley. Throughout all my time on Audit Committee, I have felt like a bit of a nuisance. And I have felt like me and the committee have to be managed. A lot of the time, I feel like we've been given the minimum amount of information that we had to be given. And on other times, information wasn't volunteered to us that should have been. Like, for example, the situation with Oracle and the situation with equal pay. And we do make the point in our amendment that maybe we are due some self-criticism. Maybe we should have been more cynical. But, I mean, in the end, we have to accept the basic premise that the Audit Committee is a watchdog and not a bloodhound, right? And that if people are telling you everything is okay, even if your gut instinct suggests otherwise, I think we're entitled to accept those assurances. And if I may, Lord Mayor, I'd like to make some general comments. I think we need a degree of realism about what's going on with Audit Committee. This is a big job. It's a £3.5 billion turnover organisation. It's hugely complex. It's got the complexity of the political aspects that are involved that most organisations don't have. It is absolutely laughable that the chair of Audit should have an SRA that is less than half of the chair of Planning and Licensing, for example. It's a nonsense. It is a huge job. The responsibility that goes with the chair of Audit. And even in terms of the members of Audit Committee, many of us have full-time jobs. I can see Councillor Perks nodding because I know she has a demanding full-time job and know there are others. And then to expect people to do the really difficult job that's involved in Audit Committee as a part-time representative without any support, without any office facilities, is an incredibly big ask. And I think looking forward, we have to have a degree of realism about what can be expected of Audit Committee and the resources that need to be available to enable them to do it. But having said all that, Lord Mayor, I firmly resist any suggestion that the Chair of Audit should be anything other than an elected representative. We have a democratic deficit in Birmingham already. The council's been taken over, I don't know if it's the Section 141 officer or by the commissioners, so we already have two layers of officers. We have the officers, the Birmingham officers, we have another, what is effectively a layer of officers, which are the commissioners, all, by the way, drawing north of £1,000 a day. Nice work if you can get it. And now there's a suggestion that we put a third type of officer in, which would be an independent chair of audit. And that person would be remunerated by the council. He would suddenly start to report to the council, and we would have another officer. That's the reality, a different type of officer. I think it is absolutely essential that Audit Committee is comprised of elected representatives answerable to the electorate, certainly in their own wards, and to the electorate generally, and that they act in that way. And in particular, the chair of audit must be an elected representative. I, for one, would not be happy to serve on an audit committee where we had an employed independent chair. I don't know how the others would feel about it. That, Lord Mayor, is all I have to say on that. Thank you.